Soviet Bear Boxing. We're here talking about Crawford versus Madrimov. This is going to be an excellent fight on August 3rd. I'm sure everybody's going to be tuning in. This is a high elite fight. East versus West style. The first time ever Crawford has fought a Soviet-based pendulum fighter. Now, I'm going to get into some topics here, stylistic topics, some greater, more socio topics, and that is not really discussed or looked at. And maybe we'll get to a fight synopsis, game planning. We'll see. But yeah, that was the one thing I wanted to present first, was that Crawford's record. He has never fought a Soviet fighter. So this is really his first Soviet test to see how he does. Looking at his last, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 wins going back to Postal in 2016 have nearly all been stoppages, knockouts, and technical knockouts, which is excellent. He really just finds a way to get the fighters out of there. And these are some decent names on here. I would have to say his latest names are some of the good ones. Errol Spence, David Avanesian. Kell Brook was kind of past his prime. And I would have to say the best fighter he's fought on there is without a doubt Kalavaskis. Now, getting into the fight a little more and in depth on his resume, I'd have to say that Kalavaskis was definitely the best fighter he fought on his entire resume. I would say Errol Spence would be, but post-car accident, not. That was not the same Errol Spence we saw fighting. So there is a question mark on that. Even though he did way better than everybody thought and dominated Errol Spence, Kalavaskis was I believe Olympian, decent amateur pedigree, and just all-around better caliber fighter than Porter or Brook or any of these guys, Benavidez. But come August 3rd, that fight, Madrimov is... Now, is this fight in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or is it in Vegas? Let's see. Now, if it's in Vegas, Madrimov is going to have to be fighting the referee, the judges, and Crawford all at the same time to get a win. If it's in Saudi Arabia, there will be judges who will most likely are not as paid off and judge it fairly. So I'm waiting to see who the judges are going to be, and the location is very important. Now, Crawford coming up to, I believe, 154. I believe this would be his 3-weight undisputed if he went after all the belts to take this division, which I believe has never been done before in boxing. But coming up to weight, it seems like Crawford is actually taller than Madrimov, and he was kind of a little bigger than most of these fighters, fighting at 140, 147. Not like a weight bully, but his skeletal structure is a little bigger. But regardless, it's incredible what he's doing, going on multiple weight classes and just taking names out and becoming undisputed. So if he becomes undisputed at 154, that would be incredible. He'd be an all-time great. He pretty much is considered an all-time great as of now. But there are some flaws in both fighters that I want to point out. I noticed with Madrimov, he kind of comes in with his chin up and a wide kind of. He doesn't tuck his elbows inward because he's more of a unorthodox fighter. He throws punches, looping punches, and Crawford does that too. They both have looping punches, and they come with their chin out. So both will succumb to shots down the center. Whoever lines that up faster gets their looping shots off. and centerline punches off, will do a lot better. Crawford has the ability to be a switch hitter, so I believe he's gonna change southpaw from orthodox, and I definitely think that he's gonna toy with that a lot to see how Madrimov does in his game plan changing. So we look at Madrimov. He will occasionally open his stance, and he will sometimes switch what's called, Golovkin used to use this, it's called shifting, and he'll punch closer with his right foot forward sometimes with a right hand, like a lead right hand. One of my favorite things he's got is called a gazelle punch, and it's a leaping check left hook, and he fakes low and comes up high. So Crawford is going to be hit with Madrimov's best punches, and Madrimov is going to be hit with Crawford's best punches. I think whoever gets their feinting game off first and gets the fighter to bait at their feints, they're going to do well through rounds 1 through 5. Because this is a really high level technical fight that's going to be battling for the inside center of the ring. Madrimov is going to come out pretty quick out of the gate, and these Soviet guys are more of a pressure fighter. So our style of fighting, Soviet fighting, was invented for the amateur system Olympics to be a actually counter-punching tool. Look up Vyacheslav Lomachev. He was like our Muhammad Ali in the Soviet Union of our best caliber, 1-2 right hand. He was tested by scientists of having like 12 times faster reaction visibility than most normal humans, and he worked off the pendulum. So he would take a step back, fire that 1-2 right away, and that was used as he was primarily a counterpuncher. He would use that. He would wait for the puncher and immediately strike like a cobra and throw a 1-2. So a lot of that style was invented for counterpunching, but it's been so effective in both the amateurs and the pros that now when it's come to the pros, guys like Bivol and Usik and Lomachenko, they use it as an effective, aggressive technique of going forward off the pendulum. And then when I want to avoid punches, they just take a few steps back on their pendulum. And it's so effective that it really has become more of a offensive style of fighting. Madrimov is more of a flat-footed and pendulum-based fighter. So he comes from very odd angles. He does stutter steps, he'll use shifting, and he'll use angles like Lomachenko, but in a different manner. He doesn't really use angles off the pendulum like Lomachenko does. It's more of a kind of a square step to get on an angle. So I'm really curious to see how Crawford deals with this. And I don't think Crawford is going to do very well the first 2 to 3 rounds or 4 rounds. And Crawford is very open to getting hit. If you watched his fight against Kalavaskas, he was getting lit up down the center, for the first 7 rounds. But the thing about Crawford is he's so intelligent that his brain works fast, and he understands perception and awareness, and he makes adjustments on the fly. He's taking in your data. But it's not like Lomachenko. Lomachenko is more pretty boxing, where he's not getting hit, but he's still taking in data. Crawford is not the same. He still takes in data just as fast as Lomachenko. A little bit slower, but almost just as fast, but he's getting hit. It's not very pretty boxing, but it's very effective. My coach, when I learned, said, he always told me that necessarily there is a right and wrong, but at the same time there isn't in boxing. There's a more effective way to box and a less effective way to box. Which one are you going to pick? I pick Soviet form of boxing because I think it is way more effective in boxing than most styles. But Crawford has an effective, intelligent strategy of fighting. He understands timing very well. He's got some of the best timing in boxing, and he just knows how to use that effectively. And it looks like he's behind, and then out of nowhere, his brain kicks in, fires in, and his reflexes take over with his brain. He's got, fast twitch muscle fibers, but a lot of these American boxers want to be like Floyd Mayweather, but none of them, Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson, Boots Ennis, none of them have fast twitch muscle fibers as fast or as good as Floyd Mayweather. He was the best, and somebody may come along as good as him like that, but he was really the best at that. So, Crawford is more of a chess player, and he breaks you down with volume punching and accuracy and effective timing. That's the way he wins most fights. But I have to tell you, he did not look good against Kalavaskis. He did get knocked down. What was that? I believe the 5th round. One of those middle rounds. And yeah, Madrimov is a far superior fighter than Kalavaskis. So I'm curious to see how Crawford will dissect this, you know, a quarter or half Soviet style. I am still picking Crawford to win via unanimous decision, but Crawford is on a knockout streak. I believe it is, what is it, how many stoppages? Like 9 or 11 stoppages. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's on 11 straight stoppages stemming back to December 2016 against John Molina Jr. Now, Madrimov has a pretty good chin. I don't think he's going to get stopped. He is one of the most athletic boxers I've ever seen. He comes from like a judo background, and Crawford is also one of the most athletic boxers I've ever seen. I'd have to say that Lomachenko, Usik, bivol, Crawford, and Madrimov are the most athletic, naturally athletic, gifted fighters currently in boxing right now. I've seen Crawford wrestle a Kazakh guy in the gym and manhandle him. I've seen Crawford deadlift like 400 pounds. He's good at basketball. He's just good at everything. He's a naturally just really raw and gifted athlete. And Madrimov is the same way. He does multiple things really well. Both these guys do like backflips when they win. It's impressive. So this is like a really interesting fight, and I'm so curious. I'm still going to go with Crawford for the 12-round UD. But I'm curious to see what Madrimov is made of from the 7th to the 12th round. That's when I'm curious about his gas tank, because he does have a lot of muscle on him, and muscle usually takes more blood oxygen to pump. And if you have more muscles in boxing, it's really not good for you. You need more of a lean, kind of physique to last a while. But some of these Soviet guys train so hard that they can just keep it up for all 12 rounds, like Usik and Lomachenko and bivol. And Crawford's the same way. He works at Colorado, 6,000 feet above sea level. So he is a force to be reckoned with. This is a really fantastic fight, and I'm not counting out Madrimov here. He could take this. He could take a 12-round UD. Or he could even TKO him. Both guys have knockout power, and they work by... Crawford is more of a volume puncher, and then when both these guys smell blood, they take you out. They're really good finishers, both of these guys. Madrimov is coming off a win off of Kurbanov, and Crawford just destroyed Spence. So... And I want to get more into... I'm going to make a whole in-depth video on this, but this is a largely broader topic of I wanted to present to the boxing community. And a lot of people are going to be resistant to this information, but this is my thesis, and I think it should have been said by somebody a long time ago, but I don't think people know boxing well enough to understand. So I was trained in American boxing, and then I was trained in Soviet boxing. And now I train my own fighter in Soviet boxing. But I train American first and then Soviet, because Soviet is much more articulate on technique. We focus heavily on technique, especially footwork, as you can see. But I truly believe that when you look at the Olympics, okay, here's your first bit of evidence. America has not won a gold medal in Olympic boxing in, I think, over 20 years now. Around that mark. It was Andre Ward of 2004 was the last time we've won a gold medal. I believe we're on the cusp of winning another one, but one of our fighters already lost in round 1. So these former satellite Soviet countries are actually the countries that are doing the best in boxing. Places like Uzbekistan, places like Ukraine, obviously Russia, but now Russia is banned from the Olympics. If they were in, they'd be doing very well. But all the satellite countries are doing very well. They're winning bronze, silver, and gold. Other countries that are doing well, obviously, is Cuba. They have a very high pedigree in amateur Olympic boxing. But outside of Olympic boxing, these Soviet countries have been doing extremely well too. I mean, look what Usik just did. He proved to you that a Soviet pendulum fighter just destroyed the second tallest fighter of all time, 6'9". I believe the tallest was Valuev, 7 foot or 7'1", the Russian fighter. And Usik just destroyed a bigger fighter with 40 pounds on him. I don't think anybody's ever done that in the history of boxing at heavyweight. So it shows you that the Soviet form is an elite form of fighting that is proving time and time again. We're one by one taking everybody out. We took out Canelo with bivol. Canelo was rated number 1 pound for pound, minimum number 3 or number 5 top pound for pound, and bivol took him out. Was the only Triple G fought him and beat him first back in 2016, but Triple G does not fight in a Soviet pendulum manner anymore. He's a flat-footed cut-the-ring fighter with extreme intelligence and power and technique. But the more of the Soviet fighters are winning. Look what Lomachenko just did to Devin Haney. Lomachenko absolutely 100% won that fight. Nobody disagrees. Lomachenko won that fight. So these Soviet-based fighters are beating everybody. Madrimov is not technically the formal Soviet-based pendulum fighter. He's a little bit more of a mixed bag fighter, which uses odd Uzbek foot styling that he practices in the ring and in training. So he's more of a hybrid flux machine that's coming at Crawford. But this system works, and guys have gone on record, like Vazdik, who said, I've trained with Americans, I've trained with other people around the world, and our Soviet system is much more efficient in training fighters to get them ready than the American system. And it's just doing better. And, going back, if we were fighting Americans since 1930 or 1940, all of your history books would look different. You would not have the same fighters or doing what they did if the Soviets were here fighting everybody. Things would look a lot different. Look what we've done in only just about 5 to 8 years. We've completely changed the history books. And look what we're doing in MMA as well. Everybody that is winning over there, the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter is Islam Makhachev, which comes from Russian Sambo background with hybrid Dagestani fundamentals. And these guys are just beating everybody. Merab Delyashev, another guy. All the Soviets, Russians, Ukrainians, they're in the sports now. They are the combat sports guys to look out for. Very, very tough. I don't think it really has to do... some of it has to do with genetics, but most of it is stylistic and just raw toughness. People who come from cold weather environments, who are just bred for this stuff, who are extremely poor, poorer than people over here, okay, way poorer in America, and they're just tougher. That's what it is. They come from cold weather climates, they're poor, and their style is just as good as American or superior. And that's where, if people, I really believe that a lot of people over here haven't woken up and smelled the coffee. I saw this coming once Golovkin came and stepped foot on American soil in 2012. I said, this guy is the start of something new. I haven't seen people cut the ring like this guy. And, around that time is when all these Soviet guys started coming over. That's when Lomachenko was the highest sought-after amateur maybe of all time. There were scouts recruiting him, wanting to get him, but of course Top Rank got him. He was one of the most recruited fighters of all time because he had the best amateur record of all time. And more and more of these guys are coming over. Vladimir Shishkin, who now Canelo is going to have to deal with at the 168. Lots of Soviet fighters are now influxed into pro boxing, and they're just keep on coming. So they have to deal with these guys in MMA. Now you got to deal with these guys in pro boxing. So this is going to be an extremely good fight. Again, I am still picking Crawford for UD, 12-round UD. Maybe I'll make a further in-depth fight prediction, but I wanted to voice what I think the climate of professional boxing is happening right now. And it's been happening for the last 5 to 8 years, and people just don't see it. Their head is dug into a sand like an ostrich. They have, you know, they fail to recognize it. They don't want to look at it. They look at it as like a great white hype, but the fighters that were in America, that people were fighting over here, were not Soviets. Soviets were not allowed to fight in pro boxing until after the fall of the Iron Curtain, Soviet Union, in 1991. So that just goes to show you that's how little time we've done with both MMA and boxing in just since 1991. You know, a little over 30 years. What we've done, we've changed the sport dramatically. You know, much different style than the other people that have been fighting over here for a long time. People don't understand Soviet style. So they think they can dissect it, but this Madrimov guy is not the same as somebody like a, I don't know, Chris Algieri, flat-footed fighter, American fighter, or a Joe Smith Jr. Nothing like those guys at all. So they don't really understand the fundamentals of this boxing. So their assessments are not the same. So we're looking at a different style caliber of fight. 2 high elite fighters coming in for the win. Alright guys, I hope you subscribe, tune in. I'm going to make some more content like this and break down some stuff, but I really am going to enjoy this fight, and I would like to hear what your predictions are, and can't wait. August 3rd, tune in.
A flurry of punches under a minute.
Straight left to the body. Great combination from Lomachenko.
Stop!
He found the opening.
Oh, and there's a short right hand.